Do you like Deus Ex? What if I told you there was a criminally underrated post-apocalyptic game set in a dystopian world that many consider a precursor to future immersive sims, yet for a long time it remained buried and forgotten? That game was Strife, and thanks to Nightdive Studios, it's got a new lease on life. Let's take a look.
Pixel Polish.
What's up, retro punks, and welcome to PixelPolishTV, broadcasting straight from the neon-lit Freescape city somewhere deep in the cyberspace.
Hello everyone, glad to see you again.
Indeed, and now that you're here, let's talk about a little game called Strife, a very curious production that had a big impact on many future hits like Deus Ex or System Shock 2, yet for years it remained largely unrecognized for its achievements and quickly faded into obscurity. Thankfully, almost 2 decades after its initial release, it was resurrected by Nightdive Studios, guys who diligently bring back old classics to modern systems, upgraded, refined and remastered. This was indeed the case with Strife, a quest for sigil, now known as the original Strife Veterans Edition. But let's start at the beginning, because trust me, it's an interesting tale. In the early 90s, a little-known developer, Cygnus Studios, began working on the Second Sword, a first-person RPG utilizing Raven Software's ShadowCaster engine. Sometime during the development, Studio was approached by a somewhat recognizable company called id Software to develop a game using their Doom engine. Of course, like everyone in their right mind would, Cygnus jumped on the opportunity, moved to Texas and scrapped the Second Sword, hence the 2 screenshots you see on the screen might be the only remains of the game that never was. Once Cygnus finished working on their other title, Raptor Call of the Shadows, they immediately started making, yes, you guessed it, Strife. But what came next is a fascinating tale. Sometime after work on Strife began, internal conflicts erupted and employees of Cygnus Studio mutinied against the studio's owner, which resulted in the studio's dissolution and cancellation of the Strife project. That would be the end of it, if it wasn't for the Mutineers founding Rogue Entertainment, that name that totally makes sense now, by the way, better known years later for their hit game American McGee's Alice. Who said that mutinies don't pay off? Yarr! And just like that, with assistance from id Software, the remaining rebels happily resumed development on Strife. This tale is made all the more interesting by how some of these events are closely reflected in the game itself, but more on that in the spoiler section. On May 31st, 1996, Strife was presented to the world to a resounding meh from both critics and the general audience alike. As I've mentioned before, by many game historians, Strife is considered to be one of the precursors to immersive sims like Deus Ex, and there are very good reasons for that. Strife is one of the earliest examples of an FPS game utilizing light RPG elements, fully voiced dialogues, a proper quest system, semi-open world, branching storylines, multiple endings, etc. Unfortunately for Strife, it just so happened that Duke Nukem 3D was released a few months earlier, and the killer FPS Quake was about to hit the store shelves barely few weeks after Strife, overshadowing and cannibalizing it completely. Now that's what I call bad timing. All the innovation that Strife introduced fell victim to the Doom's engine dwindling popularity, ancient graphics and most of all, competition. Through this, most gamers who already kicked some alien ass in Duke Nukem 3D and those hyped for the 3DFX Voodoo accelerated Quake were simply not interested in another Doom clone.
Leave an old man alone.
So, what was so special about Strife that made it gain a cult following, despite getting the cold shoulder at release?
In many ways, Strife was ahead of its time, despite falling behind technologically. Let's start with gameplay, which definitely makes it stand out from the crowd of the so-called Doom clones. First of all, Strife ditched linear level progression, which remained a staple of the genre for a long time to come. Instead, the town of Tarnhill in which you start acts as a central hub. This is where you get to pick up missions, buy equipment and supplies, increase stats and set out to all the other locations. In fact, other than the central hub, there's many other smaller hubs connected with each other and with mission areas, eventually even opening shortcuts between locations, not unlike Dark Souls for example. While not quite an open world, Strife definitely did what it could to create a coherent, interconnected world that is both immersive and impressive considering the rapidly aging tech. Hexen might have created hub-like levels before, but Strife took it to the next level. From a strictly mechanical standpoint, Strife inherited the brutal combat and lightning-fast player movement of Doom. Weapons in Strife are varied and quite original. Kudos to Rogue Entertainment for having the guts to forego the typical pistol, shotgun, rocket launcher combo and trying something completely new. That's how we've got weapons like electric crossbow, double-barreled grenade launcher or Mauler that serves both as a super shotgun equivalent and Strife's version of the BFG thanks to its alt fire mode. As a matter of fact, most weapons have secondary fire modes or ammo types, all suitable for different occasions. As for the brutality of Strife, let me just say that enemy death animations are quite juicy, especially after using phosphorus grenades in a small room full of enemy troops. But even without that, bodies oozing out of mech suits and jeep explosions are a common sight in this game.
A peasant's death rattle is a lovely sound, don't you think?
But there's also a more subtle side of Strife, and that leads me to the inclusion of stealth. It's rather primitive by today's standards and only used for occasionally, but it's there. It mostly boils down to using the punch dagger and layer poison balls for the crossbow to silently take down enemies without alerting everyone in the area. Some missions in the game and even the hub city itself would allow you to walk freely around enemies without being harassed, but if you kill one of them with a regular weapon, everyone would turn against you. It's especially critical in Tarnhill, where once triggered, enemy guards would respawn indefinitely, effectively forcing you to reload the game. Speaking of respawning guards, I have to admit that Strife was ballsy with its way to screw you over right at the start of the game. If you're the exploring type, you will quickly find Harris in the local tavern and most likely accept his mission, thinking it's part of the story.
I'm kind of a talent broker for the rebels.
Without spoiling too much, if you complete the mission too soon or at all, you'll end up swarmed and dead very fast. Most devs wouldn't dare doing something like this today, afraid of just scaring off the player.
Could you pause for a second? I'm getting a little sick.
You mentioned spoilers, so I assume there's a lot to the game's story. Is that right?
Let me put it like this. If I had played Strife in 1996, I would be blown away by what I'm witnessing in a seemingly straightforward first-person shooter. Fully and very well voiced dialogues, actual story and side missions given by NPCs, interesting characters, player choices that actually affect the rest of the game in a meaningful way, world that changes around you as a result of your actions, unexpected plot twists and even alternate endings. Now today it might sound like every other game in the genre, but remember guys, this was years before System Shock 2 or Deus Ex were even announced. It also helps that all the key characters and comic book-like cinematics are really nicely drawn, adding some much needed style to the otherwise low-res pixel art world. The setting for the story is a rather uncommon blend of science fiction and fantasy that somehow manages to work together rather well. This techno-fantasy world was struck by a comet that unleashed a deadly virus killing most of the planet's population. Some survivors remained unaffected, while others started hearing the voice of a malignant god and formed the Order, an oppressive cult worshipping said entity. The Order's totalitarian rule caused an underground resistance movement to be formed, calling themselves the Front. Unfortunately, the cultists had a huge technological advantage, and to outmaneuver them, the Front needed an agent with a particular set of skills. As luck would have it, lured by rumors of conflict, a mercenary wandered into town. That mercenary, of course, is you. The Front wastes no time in roping you in, and this is where things start getting interesting, especially if you take the rebellious origins of the game into account. From now on, finding a total of 5 pieces of an alien superweapon called the Sigil becomes our main goal. Each piece is held by a high-ranking lackey of the entity, the alien god that controls the Order. I will now spoil a part of the story, so if you want to experience it for yourself, I suggest skipping this part of the video to the timecode shown on the screen.
Spoiler section begins in 3, 2, 1. You have been warned.
All the spoiler-free people gone? Good, so listen up. The Front leader and extension your boss, Maisel, is the center of one of the game's major plot twists, although in different ways depending on your choices. Up until that pivotal moment, he seems to be a good man and a concerned resistance leader, but eventually it turns out that he's one of the game's bosses holding one of the pieces of the Sigil. Not only do you get to eliminate him right in the center of the Front's base, but all the other rebels join you in the fight. Now that's a pretty cool twist on its own, but if you remember the story of developer mutiny against the studio founder, followed by taking over the development of Strife under new leadership, it's hard not to notice some similarities. To my knowledge, I might be the first person reviewing this game to come to this conclusion, as I have never seen anyone making this connection, but I might also be completely wrong, so don't quote me on that. Okay, now back to the spoiler-free section. You didn't think I'm gonna spoil the entire game, right? Alrighty then, spoilers over, so let's keep going. During your entire adventure, a female agent called Blackbird always accompanies you from the shadows, although never in person and only speaks to you through a comm unit.
Blackbird will continue to be your guide. She's taken quite a shine to you.
Sounds like a dream job, doesn't it?
She can be quite useful, pointing you in the right direction from time to time or providing some valuable background information. It's a nice touch and makes you feel less isolated in this post-apocalyptic world. You never get to meet her during the campaign, but let's just say that it makes sense once you complete the game, no matter which ending you get.
Mines, catacombs, sewers. What a first date.
Speaking of which, there's a total of 3 endings to the game and 2 of them depend on your choices at a certain point in the story. Each decision will take you through a different process of reaching the endgame and either reward you with the best ending or make you question your loyalties. I highly suggest keeping a separate save game for both paths and playing them both, it's worth it. The last ending is triggered by simply getting killed by the final boss, so it's more of a way to motivate you to try and don't fail the humanity.
The sentient virus hit us like a tidal wave, driving us all mad. We were extinct.
The overall story of Strife isn't going to change your life, but it's competent and engaging with enough twists to keep you guessing. There's a reason why there's a quote "Trust no one" printed on the front of the game's retail box and on its Steam page. Strife got a little more depth added in the Veteran Edition thanks to a new side mission which leads you to a new super secret level that never existed in the original release. In the process of unlocking said level, you get to talk with a brand new NPC who gives you a lot of missing backstory that was cut from the game, but fills a lot of the gaps in the lore. It's a bit of a shame that those missing pieces are locked behind a secret in the game, but at the same time it's cool that the Veteran Edition adds one more reason to play the game thoroughly. If you're paying attention, it's not that difficult to find anyway.
Are there any other new additions in Strife Veteran Edition?
Actually, yeah, quite a few. And not just engine updates. The added side mission that leads you to the super secret level is actually quite complex, utilizing some of the game's out-of-the-way areas that never served real purpose in the original release. The secret level itself holds a completely new permanent power-up that turns your punch dagger into one-hit kill weapon, which is actually quite useful during the last stretch of the game, might even be considered a godsend on higher difficulties. To get it though, it's not enough to find the secret level itself, but you also need to pick up 3 pieces of a talisman, all of which were placed in various locations by Nightdive Studios. You should be able to find the first 2 pieces organically, and the last one will be found at the end of the secret level. As for other goodies, Veteran Edition also includes the original release of Strife run through DOSBox, as well as a 1995 beta version of the game, for those of you curious enough to check it out. It also restores the missing multiplayer mode that was planned but never finished in time for the original release. Needless to say, Strife Veteran Edition improves upon the audiovisual side of the game significantly. It adds completely new 3D renderer, supporting widescreen resolutions, anti-aliasing, post-processing shaders like bloom or motion blur, adds dynamic lights, virtually unlimited draw distance and more. In the audio department, only music really has changed, giving us a choice between OPL2 emulation and fully digital music, which is just a recording of Roland SC55 MIDI sound font. My only problem with this port is that Nightdive Studios gutted General MIDI support. General MIDI would have allowed us to use different sound fonts through virtual MIDI synth, which I have previously covered in a video tutorial on our channel. It's not a deal breaker, but it would be nice to have it as an option.
Future Pixel here. Actually, thanks to the music being digital, it can be easily modded with one of the many available music packs that you can easily find on the internet. I will even drop a link in the description below to a pack that is playing in the background right now.
Veteran Edition also brings several bug fixes to the original code and some quality of life changes like automap markers, directional hit indicators, full screen HUD, FOV slider and automatic medkit usage, which takes the load off your fingers during heated combat situations. You can also experience Strife in its original form by turning on Classic mode, which disables all the improvements, and switching to the original software renderer for that true old-school feel.
Anything else to add about the game, Pixel?
Strife is a good game with some novel ideas and mechanics that were ahead of its time, but it came out too little too late to grab the attention of the general gaming public. That's the main reason why it remained overlooked for decades and only managed to build a small cult following. But now, with Veteran Edition on the market, there's no reason not to play it if you like retro games, especially since it often goes on sale on GOG.com and Steam. Hell, it's even available on Nintendo Switch. Maybe Strife didn't age as gracefully as some of the bigger titles of the era, maybe other contemporary games did some things a little better, but for any fan of immersive sims it will be a fascinating trek through the origins of the genre. If you like what we have shown you, then definitely give it a shot. But alright guys, I'm spent. Hope you enjoyed the video, and right now I should probably give you the spiel about liking the video, sharing it with your friends and subscribing to our channel. But if you have made it this far, then you probably already did it and we appreciate it a lot.
We're also quite active in social media. As usual, you can find all the links in the video description below.
That's right. In the meantime, thank you guys for watching and we will see you next time. Stay frosty, runners. Pixel Polish, signing out.
Take care, everyone. See you soon.
Oh, okay. Sure, go ahead. Have a nice day.